I'm Clyde Peeling.
My name is Kathryn Allen, and I am the zoological manager.
We are currently at Reptiland.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hello, and welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. Y'all, we've got a really timely episode. If you listened to Zoo News on Friday, then you know that Reptiland was featured in a story there. And we're actually going to be spending the next 2 weeks talking to people from Reptiland. But unlike other two-part episodes that I've done before, this is going to be a whole lot of different. In part because this episode is going to be focused entirely on Reptiland, which is an AZA-accredited zoo in Pennsylvania that focuses mostly on, you guessed it, reptiles. Anyway, it is a herp zoo, mostly, with some birds and a single mammal, other than the staff. And it's a really cool place. And so they were in Zoo News on Friday, and now they're here on Tuesday. And then it turns out that Clyde Peeling, who owns Reptiland, also owns traveling exhibits that go to different facilities, some of which I've gotten to experience at different places. And it's such a unique, cool, different thing that I thought we had to do an episode about that as well. So this week, I'm going to be talking to Clyde Peeling himself, the owner of Reptiland, and then to Kathryn Allen, the zoological manager, as you heard back at the beginning of this. And I'm pretty stoked because the next week we're going to have more discussion about the traveling exhibits. So a very interesting look at two very different sides of one organization. And I think it's pretty fun. You know, I have to talk about the fact that when I went to Reptiland, actually before I even went, when Kathryn and I connected on Instagram, it was just like, yeah, come hang out, see things, we'll talk, whatever. And it was super chill, like in a really good way, not in a they don't care way, but in a like, we want to be open, we want to be accommodating. We don't really know what everyone's schedule is going to be, but come and we'll figure it out. So like, I didn't even know I was going to get to talk to Clyde until Kathryn was like, Clyde wants to meet you. And then Clyde came in and, introduced himself and we chatted for a bit. And then he was like, so do you want to talk to me like for the podcast? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So the first 17 minutes of this episode are with Clyde Peeling, and that was a very unexpected bonus. And then, after that, I talked to Kathryn, and yeah, it was just a cool vibe. I got to meet most of the staff. I got to talk to a lot of people about a lot of things. I got to hang out with some tortoises, which was that's always incredible. One of them may have tried to eat me, but it was fine. It was a tortoise. But the whole thing was just honestly really cool. And one thing I have to tell you is when I started talking to Clyde, I didn't really know what he knew about me or Rossifari. And, so I kind of started to go into my spiel about what I do. And he was like, oh, John, I know who you are. I've known about you for a while. As soon as word gets to most people in, ownership or other high roles at zoos that something like your podcast comes out, anyone worth their salt in this industry is going to check you out. I know what you're doing and I appreciate it. And you're doing good work. And that really meant a lot to me. And also made me feel like, oh, that's kind of fancy. I dig that. So I'm greatly appreciative to Clyde for saying that, and to Kathryn for just giving me an amazing day, and to everyone at Reptiland for being wildly transparent and awesome and open and welcoming and just all the things. It was a very cool visit. And so I'm going to stop talking about it now and let you hear it. So here is my interview with Clyde Peeling, followed by my interview with Kathryn Allen, both of Reptiland. So I noticed that, it's not just Reptiland, but it's Clyde Peeling's Reptiland. And that's the name that you just said. So I take it that you are the owner of this place.
I am. Actually, we started out, well, if I can give you a little history.
Yeah, go for it.
I came in to this industry probably from the wrong side of the fence. As a kid, I went to work at a small roadside zoo about 15 miles from here called Reptiland. And, and it was very much a roadside zoo in the worst sense. As a kid, I thought it was wonderful, but in retrospect, I can see that it left much to be desired. But that place went out of business while I was in the U.S. Air Force. And I came out in 1964 and asked the previous owner if he minded if I used the name. And so it was just Reptiland. But then I began to go on lecture tours throughout the United States. And it occurred to me, well, I may as well be advertising my name as well as the business. And so it became Clyde Peeling's Reptiland.
Nice. I find that fascinating whenever anybody has a story. So my first meaningful encounter with an animal was that when I was a very little child, I rode an elephant in a park, not in a zoo, in a public park in my hometown where they just brought in an elephant. That should set off every alarm bell ever, right? That's not okay. But it meant so much to me. And I've had a lot of guests on here whose first experience was working in a bad facility. Or I literally have another friend who was on this podcast who rode an elephant in a park in their hometown. And we're talking about this and we're like, how is this possible? But also that led us to care about conservation and stuff. So while I think it's important to keep moving forward, I'm always fascinated by those stories.
Well, I say the place was a roadside zoo in every sense of the word. But in fairness, at that time, there was very little known about appropriate husbandry, how to keep them alive. Breeding them was just out of the question. And in the early 70s, myself and a friend started something called the International Herps Symposium, and is still going today. But I think without intending to, we probably started this great boom within the private sector of breeding and selling reptiles throughout the world, actually.
Wow, that's really cool. That's fascinating. So did you study like herps, or did you just fall into this through the work that you did and then just being in love with it?
Primarily a thing of love. My father always said, hang out with people smarter than you are. And I've done that my whole life.
Nice.
And surrounded myself with them.
That's good. I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's as a musician, that's a rule, especially when you're coming up. Always play with people that are better than you. You will become a better musician. Sure. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, when I was in high school, all my friends were like, let's play together. And I was going out and trying to play with professionals in the area and getting my butt whooped, but learning and growing.
Well, somewhere I read that Andrew Carnegie had on his tombstone something to the effect, here lies a man clever enough to surround himself with men more clever than he. And so I've been very lucky. In the last 6 decades, I've had wonderful people working here who have helped us move this place forward. And right now we have an excellent team. One of them sitting right next to me.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll be talking to her. And I've gotten to meet some of the others. And this is a great place. It really is. I'm excited to have y'all here and to have you on the pod. And so I guess one thing that I find fascinating is y'all have been AZA accredited for like a long time.
Since 1986. Okay. We were scheduled for 1985. We got hit with a tornado, which almost leveled the place.
Oh,
no. But we scrambled and got things back in order. And the following year, we had our first accreditation inspection, and we have maintained accreditation ever since.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I really respect that. What was it like back then getting involved with the AZA and everything?
Well, in those days, it was the AAZPA.
It's time for interrupting John.
Well, it turns out that that certainly caught my attention, as I'd never heard that before, but Clyde was right. The AAZPA is the old name of what became the AZA, and it stood for the American Association of Zoological Parks and Aquariums. The more you know and all that. All right, back to the interview.
But in any case, they determined, the organization determined that you had to be accredited or you could not remain a member. So the choice was, do I drop out of AAZPA, which is now AZA, or do we try to get accredited? And we went for the latter, and we've tried to improve every year since.
Do you find that being a part of the AZA and needing to keep up just for accreditation alone? I mean, obviously, you care about the animal welfare. You would be making your own improvements. But do you find that being part of the AZA helps you to stay, up to the latest?
I do, because there's a tendency, I think, if you see a problem every day, suddenly it disappears.
Right.
And it's good to have outside people from AZA come in every 5 years and look throughout the place. They look at everything. They look at your safety protocol, your husbandry, your animal welfare, financial situation. They really scrutinize every aspect of the business. And they obviously are going to find things that, I didn't think were that important. But so they might give you a report saying, we would like you to correct this and this and this. We find the following things that you're doing wonderful. And that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I think it's always good to have outside eyes. So
yeah.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Do you have a favorite animal here?
I always say that's like asking, do I have a favorite child? I really, truly find these animals fascinating. Obviously, some animals like water snakes are nasty tempered. And so you're not maybe as, you don't feel as warmly toward a water snake as you would toward something that's very tame and easily handled. But no, I find them all. What I see as our mission largely is to try to get our visitors to see a connection between human species and other life forms, and that we're all related. And so we're kind of in a subliminal way trying to teach evolution.
I love that. I've talked to some zoos in the South where you're not even allowed to say the word evolution.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
And that boggles my mind because this is pretty established science at this point. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it is indeed. But I don't understand how you can be surrounded by these animals and not take advantage of using them to promote the idea of organic evolution. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's not a belief system.
There was this moment where we both looked at each other, and I could tell you were kind of struggling to say, like, how do you defend something that is?
Exactly.
This is like saying, well, now I'm going to try to explain to you that there is air. You can't really do that because it is.
And people who don't understand science say, well, it's just a theory. Well, in science, a theory is something that is an established fact, as close as you can get to a fact. It's been tested by hundreds or in some cases thousands of scientists and found to be a theory that works. And like gravity, evolution is a theory. It's a fact.
Somebody says they don't believe, well, hey, gravity's only a theory, and then they just float away. It's never happened. Yeah, no. Right. It's all, it's interesting. I think that facilities like this are so important, especially because there is such a just a lack of scientific knowledge right now. And I think so much that's going on, especially online, but just in general, everyone has a voice. Yeah. And everyone gets to have an opinion, whether you're an expert or not. And I think that is a real big problem, unfortunately. We're in an area that has a lot of, I think, interesting contrasts.
Yes.
I always like to talk about the fact that the highway Route 15 that comes up to this general area here has more churches, more religious signage, and more porn shops, as well as a swinger club than anywhere I've ever been traveling the entire country. And I just find all of that so fascinating, And I think having a place of science and education and learning where, like you said, you don't shove it down anyone's throat. It's very much about coming to
No, we try animals. Not.
But there's great signage. There's great, for people who want to learn, it's here. And I think that's wildly important. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. What impact do you feel like you have on the community here?
I think when we began 60 years ago almost, we would hear a lot of stories about hoop snakes and milk snakes milking cows and just silly things like that.
Wait, what?
And
really?
Absolutely. And gradually over these past 6 decades, I think people are much more cognizant of these animals, that they know that they're important. Even if they don't like them, they realize that they're important to the ecosystem. And we maybe have had a small part of that. Certainly not all of it. Some of it would have to be, you'd have to say that it was programs on NPR and PBS and maybe Animal Planet, although sometimes they get a little far out.
Sometimes they do, yes.
But all of that has probably contributed to, increasing the general population's understanding of nature in general.
Yeah, very cool. That's a good goal and very important to have that impact. So, let me ask you something. Reptiland, not cute and cuddly land, not we're going to get a red panda land, but Reptile Land. What has kept your focus on herps for so long? And do you think that's impacted things in a positive way, in a negative way?
Well, in a very factual way of looking at this, we don't live in a market area large enough to justify a full-blown zoo.
Mm-hmm.
So staying focused on herps, which happens to be my primary interest, makes sense from an economic point of view. It's interesting. I think I hear this everywhere I go. People thank me for living out my dreams so they can bring their kids or their grandkids here. So even though it's just reptiles and amphibians, few birds, which are, by the way, reptiles, they seem to love the place generally.
That's awesome. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm not complaining. I got to hang out with some tortoises today. I'm doing all right. Good. Yeah. So, I was curious just because, I know that I feel like even in an industry where, we're all trying to do good, there can be some greed, and there can be lots of thoughts of, if I could just get this, then my numbers could go up to this or whatever. But I think the focus is great. I was just curious, I love that you love it though. I love that it is a passion project, even if you have other reasons.
It's a rare individual that's going to get rich in this business. And so you better love it or find something else.
Fair. Very fair. Is there anything that you would like to tell my listeners, especially maybe those who haven't heard of Reptiland before, just about the facility?
It's a facility that's gone through a lot of evolution. When we began, we were pretty much a roadside zoo. And gradually over the years, we've improved the facilities. We keep pouring back money into the facility. So what you see today in almost no sense represents what was here in 1964. I doubt if there's anything that remains the same. So I would say come see us, and hopefully you'll enjoy yourself as much as you seem to, John.
Oh, I am. I am so happy to be here. Yes. Also, it just blows my mind. Of all the years, I mean, just because, again, I'm a musician and I'm a nerd, if you haven't figured that out yet. But 1964, it's when the Beatles hit America.
That's
and
right.
The idea of you being here from when the Beatles hit America to now and just doing the same thing, but constantly improving and constantly growing. I mean, that's just a beautiful thing. I really love that story. I really think it's very cool.
The Beatles have been a little more successful.
Fair. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
Well, I mean, having done over 5,000 lectures throughout schools throughout the United States, obviously you don't go through a week without having an animal take a dump while you're doing the lecture. Kids love it. But I don't have any particular. I think the worst thing that ever happened to me was jumping around on the stage and splitting the back of my pants.
All right, that's fair. That's its own. That's like its mental poop story, you know. Awesome, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about this.
You're quite welcome.
All right, so Kathryn, tell us about your position.
Kind of like a general curator and registrar morphed into one position since we're tiny.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thank you, first of all. We kind of connected on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. We had a nice little chat, and you were like, yeah, come, we'll do
why not?
stuff. And so we started off with a tour of the zoo, and it took hours, just miles hiked, sweat just dripping. Okay, no. So this is a smaller facility, but it's pretty awesome. And so what I would like to do is start off by getting your history, and then we'll move on to some of the stuff here.
Oh, like how I got here?
Yeah.
So I graduated from Michigan Tech. So my hometown is back in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So very far away, like a 17-hour drive.
Oh, the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah. I'm from Calumet, Michigan. So
okay.
Like the Keweenaw area.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Isn't it what do you guys call it yourselves?
We call ourselves Yoopers.
Yoopers, that's it. Okay.
Yes.
So I was playing the Upper Peninsula, I forget where.
Okay.
And I saw, I think is it spelled, was years ago, and is it spelled Y-U-P?
Y-O-O.
Y-O-P-E-R. Okay.
Yoopers.
And I was like, what is a yopper? And I got a lot of really weird looks, but yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's a thing I remember from touring, and just,
if I have like a UP logo and somebody knows about it, it's a thing. Like we're Yoopers.
I love it.
We're a unique breed. That's
nice.
for sure. But it snows a lot there.
Yes.
Like a lot. And I do not like winter. So I graduated and moved to Florida. I worked as an intern at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. My roommate was browsing the AZA job board and was like, hey, Kathryn, check this out. And it was a 2-sentence job description that said, looking for full-time zookeeper, reptile keeper, must be willing to travel, period. Send your resume to Jeff. So I did. And then I got a phone interview, and then I was invited for an on-site interview. And then they offered me the job, and that was 2015, and I never left. So I started as a normal baseline probationary keeper. I was promoted to senior keeper in 2018, about a month before our AZA inspection.
Nice.
So, and I was the most...
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. I was the most senior zookeeper on site that day for the inspection, so it was immensely stressful for me. But we did great. We were accredited. And then in the end of 2020, my boss, Jeff Cook, who's fantastic, he told me he was retiring. And then Clyde and Elliot asked me if I would like to be promoted to the zoological manager. And I said yes. So now I'm here and I'm the CM. So that's how I got here.
Nice. That's very cool. And let me ask you, do you enjoy the area around the zoo? I mean, we'll talk about the zoo.
So it's central Pennsylvania. It is. Yeah. It's an interesting place. I'm from a very small area, so this feels like a city to me. I actually just live up in Williamsport, so not far away. But I don't dislike it. We're so close to so many things. Being from the Midwest, I drive. Like 17 hours is a normal one day. Just drive it. So from here, you can go to New York City. You can head up to Buffalo, Rochester. You can go down to Baltimore, DC. It's all so close that I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I grew up in the Harrisburg area. Mm-hmm. And yeah, no, it was the same thing, especially like once I started working, I used to, I found a job before I was doing the music thing where I worked 4 days and then had a half day on Friday. And my half day was from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Which is perfect. A nightmare since I'm a night owl. But by 10 a.m. on Friday, I had 3 days, to do whatever. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. One weekend in New York, the next in Baltimore, the next in DC, the next, all over the place where, concerts are happening. Cool. I'll just follow a band to 5 venues in 5 different cities. I feel like, people don't always think of central Pennsylvania as having like a lot of stuff, but along with like a decently vibrant arts community of its own. Yeah, you can travel very easily. And I'm a driver as well. So yeah. Awesome. So now that we have a little bit more of your history down, let's talk about Reptiland. I want to talk about what we went out and saw today, which are the animals here. Yeah. And of course, we're going to start with herps, although there are other animals here. And so let's start off with the ones that I got to hang out with. Tell me about the tortoises.
All right. So we have just a couple of buildings. So like you said, we're pretty small. Our crowd favorites are the giant Aldabra tortoises that you got to meet. We do allow guests to go in there with them if they purchase that behind the scenes experience. Their names are Al and Henry. Those are the 2 big guys. G2 and Jabali are the next biggest. And then Stompy and Snotty are the smallest ones.
Hold on. Stompy and Snotty.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
So those are the ones that we named here.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Come on. Can't you at least blame like a naming contest or something? Just lie. No one will know.
No, it was definitely us. They were just house names originally.
Right.
Stompy is this little tortoise who just runs around like crazy. And then Snotty is a snotty little brat who tries to like bite your shoes and your Achilles tendons. So
is Snotty the one that tried to bite me?
Yeah, that's Snotty.
I mean, Snotty. Okay, good name. Good
so
name.
It works. The only thing is now for the next like 150 years, they're going to be calling them Stompy and Snotty. And remember that my staff were the ones who named them. So I guess we're infamous now. But yeah, they're great. Al has been here forever. He has been here for well over 50 years, and he's kind of an iconic Reptiland animal. He's the one who has that weird shell, so he's very easy to identify. Most staff or previous staff know him. He's just been here forever, and everybody loves him. He's really just the best tortoise on the planet.
He's very cool. And what is his what is his behavior that gets him gets a lot of attention here that isn't the best, but it's not a problem?
Oh, Al loves to sleep underwater. So when we first walked in the building, it looked like he was drowning himself or that he had died in his pool, but he just naps really, really hard. And that we promised he's not dead.
And you get many guests telling you that.
Yeah. I'll get a lot of calls up to my desk that's like, can you go check? Somebody says the tortoise is dead. I'm like, no, it's just Al. But yes, I always run down and wake him up from his snooze and, make sure the guests understand that, no, he hasn't died. He's not even 60 yet, so he's not an old man.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's so funny. Yeah. And You also have some crocodilians here, and you have a particular couple that is very popular.
Yeah, so that's Rocky and Adrian, our normal colored American alligators. They have also been here far longer than I have. Rocky is 35, Adrian is 40, and they've been together forever. So they're kind of the iconic couple of Reptiland. But we don't have them breed. That's more for our safety. Adrian once did lay a nest, and we were not allowed in the exhibit. Oh. This was before I was the ZM. We just couldn't for our safety because she knew where we come through to get in that exhibit, and she defended it from us. She was the best mom to her non-existent babies. She wasn't actually going to lay any good eggs, but she went through the whole I'm a mom alligator getaway.
Wow.
So it was an adventure. That was like my first year working here.
You had a very big first year.
Yeah. My job when we raided the nest was to make sure my boss didn't get eaten by Adrian while another zookeeper was keeping her occupied. So he could raid the nest, pull the eggs, take care of that. I just had to, make sure he was going to be safe. So they trusted me enough to do that.
Fair. You mentioned that they are your normal colored.
Yeah.
So go on.
So we also have our albino alligator who's turning 15 this year. So she is named Surface, and she is isolated. So she doesn't live with Rocky and Adrian because Adrian and her do not get along. There's a big size difference between them. So
very big, yeah.
Yeah, so for Surface's safety, she has a roommate that is an alligator snapping turtle instead of another alligator.
Which is adorable. And is that just, did you just assume that since they both have alligator in the name, it'll be fine?
Well, we've seen it at other zoos.
No, I'm kidding.
So we were like, well, let's try it and see if they get along. Surface, being an albino, does have very limited vision, and she's a pretty good alligator. So we were confident that she wasn't going to try anything. If we put the snapping turtle on the other side, I'm like 90% sure Adrian would have chased it down and tried to turn him into dinner. So that's
Adrian seems like a bit of a badass. I'm just saying. I think you swapped the names on those. Adrian's the fighter in this one.
Adrian definitely is. She loves to challenge boundaries. So alligators are incredibly smart animals, and we train our alligators for feedings. We don't want them chasing zookeepers, so they have specific station locations to go to. And she listens really well when it's myself or senior staff because she knows she can't push us around. But a newer zookeeper will ask her to come and she'll just ignore them. Or she knows the command water, so she is not allowed on land during feeding because 1 foot turns into a 250-pound gator chasing you. But if you're new, she'll stick that foot on land to see what you can do.
Oh, wow.
Like Rocky won't do that. He's a big dopey male. He doesn't care. Adrian will definitely see what she can get away with. Big attitude.
Nice. That's really funny. Very cool. So, so we will move on to some of the littlers now, the little ones. But the thing that I found fascinating as we walked through is how many mixed species exhibits y'all do. What's your philosophy behind that?
We just love having multiple species in one exhibit because in the wild, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see more than one species of dart frog if you're down in South America. We also have an eyelash viper that lives in with our dart frogs.
I saw that. That was fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find them out there, and they occupy different areas. So the dart frogs tend to stay a bit lower. Our eyelash viper, is always going to be hanging up in the trees. So since they occupy different spaces, we're never worried about anything. And she's lived with them for also a very long time. We also have our gaboon viper and our mamba living together. Same thing. The gaboon viper hangs it on the ground. Mamba's going to be up in the trees. So we just all really like it. And we really want to encourage more of those natural mixed species exhibits when we have space for it. So it's an ongoing project.
No, that makes sense. That's very cool, though. I love the gecko exhibit.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be adding tomato frogs to that soon, too.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's That's really interesting.
They're all from Madagascar.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's cool. Yeah, just throw a lemur in while we're at it. What the hell, right? No, I'm kidding.
We're getting a lemur next week for the day. So. But no, we won't put a lemur in.
Good. No, but talk about the geckos that are on exhibit.
Yeah, so we have currently some Henkel's leaf-tailed geckos. So we have a variety in there. They are a species survival plan animal. So AZA has all of our SSPs. The ones we exhibit are not slated for any breeding. So we just put them on exhibit. They're actually hatched here at our facility.
Okay.
So our zoo, since we're small, we really try to help out the SSPs that we can. So we participate as much as possible, but we're not breeding crocodilians here. We don't have that space. So Henkel's leaf-tailed geckos are really a big one that we do. We have quite a few. We have like 20 different Henkels here on site.
Wow.
We only exhibit 4 of them right now. So everybody else is set up in breeding cages. In that exhibit, we also have our Phelsuma grandis, or the Madagascar giant day geckos.
Which I just love. They are so cool.
And same thing, they're social. So we have one male in with multiple females. And we also let them breed and we hatch them and we'll send them off to other zoos for exhibit as well.
Very cool. That makes sense. And, when it comes to these, especially the smaller herps, do you name all of them? Does that, that seems like it would be a lot, but I'm curious,
No. So we definitely don't name everything. We have a pretty
frankly,
big...
given how you name some of your animals, it's probably a good thing.
Probably. There's a lot of house names back there for the staff and myself. Everybody is individually identified with numbers. Generally, the public doesn't like to hear like, oh, that's Gecko 1977. But we track everybody in our online Zim system. So yes, everyone has a number. Doesn't mean they have a name.
Right. How much do you feel like you're able to get to know the personalities of each individual, though?
So I feel like we know everybody. I know all the animals, definitely. Now, my specialty is not frogs. So my frog keeper, Tiff, she's one of our senior keepers. She can tell you everything you've ever needed to know. Which frog eats the best? Which frog is, very grumpy on a Monday because he wants a hopper mouse instead of, his bugs. I gravitate much more towards our venomous collection, the more stereotypical lizards. So we know them very well because we work here every day. We're always on site. We have 10 keepers, myself, 2 senior keepers, a couple full-timers. So it's definitely, we know them one-on-one.
And I wanted to make that point because I think, especially when you say that there aren't names, I don't want people to think that just because they're a bunch of herps in an exhibit together, that they somehow get less treatment or that you're less connected to them than, again, a lemur keeper or whatever. I think that's important to understand. Like, I love the story about the grumpy frog that you mentioned, because that's hilarious to me. But I feel like people go into herp houses and miss some of that, and I know with turtles being my like first love, I know that they have a lot of personality and are individuals. And so I kind of wanted to make that point on a Reptiland,
Yeah. I think also part of it is, unlike mammals, body language in reptiles is very difficult to read.
Yes.
So people just look at a snake and, oh, it's sitting there, and they continue on. Whereas a mammal might be a bit more active. It might be eating. It's just, oh, it's a snake. Next exhibit. Oh, it's another snake. Next exhibit. But they're just fascinating in everything they do. At least I think so. But I'm also, a reptile person.
Clearly, yes. Okay, so tell me about some of the turtles here.
Our turtles.
Yeah.
Oh, we got all sorts of turtles. So we have quite a few aquatic species. We have our mata.
Stoner turtle.
Yep. The Roddy Island snake neck turtle. We have a couple of those. We have some soft shells. We also have a native turtle pond, which is outside, but everybody's currently sleeping since it's March.
Makes sense.
It's cold.
Makes sense.
But we have red-eared sliders. We have wood turtles, box turtles. We have a spotted turtle. And we actually breed some of our native species of turtles. So we have bred wood turtles here in the past. We just leave them outside all winter, and then come, springtime, they lay their eggs, and then they hatch in the fall. So we do have a couple clutches of wood turtle babies.
I love wood turtles.
They're so cool. Yeah.
They're so smart.
They are,
They're so smart. Yeah.
And there are some zoos that are hatching them for re-release. So I know the Maryland Zoo is working on that. Ours are not slated for re-release, and we are working with our state actually to track their genetics. Our original wood turtle adults were all confiscated pets.
Okay.
So Pennsylvania, in this state, you cannot own a wood turtle as a pet since it's a state protected species. You need permits and stuff. So when things get confiscated, generally we'll get a call that'll say, hey, we have this wood turtle. Can you take it on? Because we have the permits for it. But since they're all confiscated pets, I don't know where they come from, which means we don't know where to put them back if we want to. So it's a big ongoing project. We'll see if we ever get to do that. We actually will be taking some blood samples and stuff from them in end of this month, I think.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. Cause I was going to say, I actually, just for one of my recent Zoo News episodes, was reporting on, a place, and I'm blanking on what exactly it was now, but hey, go listen to recent Zoo News and you'll find out, that is using DNA testing on turtles to find out where they are from, which I don't understand how that works, but then you can take them back and reintroduce. That blows my mind.
We also did it with the Wildlife Conservation Society, where we sent in toenail clippings so they could assess what they're eating to determine whether a turtle is captive raised versus wild raised. So we did that. It was just a recently published paper as well.
That's insane. That makes no sense to me either, but that's so cool.
It's science.
Genetics and science are awesome. Yeah, I'm working on a master's in biology right now. And the more that I learn, the more that A, my mind is blown, and B, I just understand how little we still know, but also how much we're figuring out. It's all very impressive and overwhelming all at once. Yeah, that's very cool. And I purposely saved, as far as the herps are concerned, your favorites for last. So tell me about your dragons.
So our dragons, if anyone knows me, they know me. They know dragons are my favorite. So we have 2 Komodo dragons currently on site. Their names are Thurber and Saphira. Thurber is our 15-year-old adult male. Saphira is our 9-year-old female. They're both here on a breeding loan, so we are hoping to get baby Komodos in the future. So far hasn't happened, but that's okay. It's a constant, we talk about it all the time, trying to figure out, okay, how do we make them like each other? And they do, they get along pretty well. So we're a step in the right direction. Our male, though, does have some arthritis issues. He's older, and that kind of limits his mobility. But it also leads to us being very close with him. So he is a very, very docile Komodo dragon, which usually you don't think of Komodo and docile together.
Yeah,
but,
no.
But he is. And we've had to treat him. We work on some physical therapy with him. When his legs are cramping up, he gets massage therapy.
Nice.
Yeah, very spoiled. We've talked with other facilities and their vets about doing acupuncture and laser therapy as well to alleviate his pain. But that's down the road because his arthritis is not yet that bad.
Right. He just needs massages like every Komodo dragon.
Yeah, right. It's my job some days go massage the Komodo's legs because they're bothering him. But they're such smart animals. So they are trained to come to their names. They come and call just like your dog. We used to use target training, but we don't have protected contact with our Komodos. We have free contact. So our old female, Bonita, who's currently at the Bronx Zoo, she learned very quickly that target meant I have food in my pocket. So wouldn't, so she wouldn't go to the target. She would come at the person.
Right.
She took away the target step. So we stopped that just because she's smart enough. We would just say, all right, Saphira, go to work. Saphira, go to bed. Bonita, come here. And they respond to that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So wait, I didn't realize that you could be free contact with Komodos. That's amazing to me. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they're not there's no AZA regulation that you
Right.
must be protected contact. We do have push poles. So it's a long pole with like a U at the end to redirect them and move them if need be. We also have Kevlar shin guards that protect us. So we have protective equipment. It depends on what Komodo we're working with and what we're doing. We also do have strict safety procedures and training protocols. So our staff has to be certified to enter that exhibit, and we never go in solo. So it's always you and a backup keeper. And then new zookeepers cannot enter without either myself or a senior keeper. So it is a very intense training thing. It's not like you just walk in with the Komodos one day. But yeah, we do go in with them. And each zoo has their own protocols on working with them. And it's really dependent on the individual.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Like our big male, he's so docile. I mean, yes, there is a chance he could have a bad day and you wear your protective gear, but it's a less risk.
Right. No, that makes sense. Guys, I'm gonna break the image here for a minute. So I'm not gonna lie. When we did the tour first, so I know some of the stuff that I'm pretending I don't know right now because that's what you do in these interviews. And I knew they were free contact, and I very not subtly hinted that I would like to possibly go hang out with the dragons. And she just ignored me. She didn't say no. She just ignored me and took me in with the tortoises, which was a great redirect. And that's good training. I mean, I was redirected. I was instantly engaged. I love tortoises. But there was that moment where I was like, oh, I would hang out with the dragon, and you just turned and kept walking. And I was like, damn it, it was worth a shot.
It was a good try. Yeah. Certified staff. Darn it.
I mean, of course. And to be clear, like this is funny, but the only reason that I even would have said that is the idea that is if it is safe, then we would do that, but you would know that and I would trust that. And they are dragons. Yeah. So this does make sense to me. I don't want to seem like I was being, it's not like I was like, hey, can I handle some venomous snakes? I don't know. I wanted to see what the opportunity was, and it wasn't. That makes sense. But
safety is always just a really important thing.
No, of course. So. And for me, for the zoo, and for the animals, it's very important. But I had to let y'all know that I shot my shot.
You did. You tried.
I did. It was like, holy crap, is this happening? And it was not. But that is why we go to good facilities, because there are roadside zoos where they would have been like, yeah, sure, hug a dragon. And then we wouldn't have any more Rossifari.
Yeah.
Cool. So the other big type of animal here is birds.
Birds, yeah.
Yes. And so tell me about some of the birds here. You've got some cool owls with some cool stories. And
yeah. So birds are reptiles since they're descended from dinosaurs, and we love to teach science. So we've been getting more into birds. We have 3 emus who live outside by the dinos. And then we have 2 great horned owls as well on that half of the zoo. Their names are Darwin and Wallace. Darwin has been here the longest. So she's turning 17 this year at her very, very youngest. Both of them are non-releasable wildlife. So Darwin flew into a car and broke her wing. She is unflighted. So put her in the wild. She's not going to last very long since she can't move her wing at all. Wallace, we don't know what happened to him. He has some kind of like weird neurological issues. He can't seem to see the best. And he was deemed non-releasable wildlife as well. And we work with a rehabilitator, and we had a call, hey, can you guys take another great horn? And we said, sure. And then since we got him, we discovered that Darwin was actually a girl. Yeah, when they got Darwin years and years ago, they dubbed at the time what they thought was him, Darwin, but he turned out to be a she. So now she is Darwin.
Nice.
Not that she cares if we call her a boy or a girl. But yeah, so now we have 2, Darwin and Wallace. And then we have a walkthrough aviary with all of our parakeets and all the cockatiels that you got very up close and personal with.
Very up close and personal with. Yeah, tell me about the ones that we were hanging out with, because there were a couple who I got to be particularly close with.
Yeah, we had a couple cockatiels on you. The cockatiels were brand brave today coming down. So we have 9 cockatiels in the exhibit, and you had 2 of their babies. So the little one up on your shoulder was Little Red, dubbed that because she has a red band on her leg, so we know who's who. And then Little Blue, I think, was on your arm. Blue band. So those 2 are about 6 months old, maybe like 4 to 6 months old. They fledged out, living out there. And then Mom and Dad were the other 2 that were eating. Dad was the one hogging the stick for like
very hogging.
Yeah, extended period of time.
Yes.
And then Mom is the one that we lovingly call Vulture. She's missing a lot of her head feathers, but she came like that. And birds, if they're overplucked, eventually their feathers and follicles are just permanently damaged. So she looks like that and will always look like that. So
she really has half a vulture head.
It's
a good name.
It's easy to ID her. It's just like, hey, it's Vulture. And we get asked about her all the time. We're like, no, she's fine. She came like that.
No, she's fine. And also when you go into our other building, our tortoise is not dead. Leave us alone, please.
Yeah. Being a small zoo, we get asked a lot of questions. I love answering them though. I'm usually like, me and my staff are always about talking to people and answering those kinds of questions because we'd rather address it than have somebody think that we have a dead tortoise there's something wrong with our bird.
Yeah, no, that is very good. That is very important. With Little Red, is she always that loving? I'm going with loving. She was very curious. She was in my ear and trying to bite my glasses and nibbling on my facial hair. And is she always like that, or are we just best friends?
I think you're just best friends.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, she's good. Becoming confident, but that was a whole new level of Red liking you. So
that was awesome.
You have a new best friend.
That made me really happy. I feel like I would have stayed there all day. I think it's a great zoo. I think it's a great collection. Are there any other animals that you wanted to talk about?
We also have a really big venom collection. And
right. This is like your passion. And I'm just like, let's skip the venom stuff. Woo, right.
So we
Can you just say again, I've had it on here a bunch of times, but poisonous, venomous, lay it out there.
Okay. So poison, if you bite it and you die, it's poisonous. Venomous if it bites you. So venom is an injected toxin through a bite, through a sting. Some snakes are poisonous. Most, when we think about them, are that venomous. So a cobra is venomous, not poisonous.
Right.
It's still like, I hear it all the time. And I know what people mean when they're like, where's your poisonous cobras? Like, it's venomous, but that's okay. I don't correct people too often. But yeah, that's the difference between them.
Thank you. Okay, now talk about the collection.
Yeah, so we have a nice size venom collection, and we also love to bring venom to people. So we run a venomous show in the summer where we have cobras on stage and rattlesnakes. We bring them to schools and events. Venom is terrifying to most people. If they see venomous snakes, they run. They think they're terrifying. I mean, I'm sure we can't count the number of times people have told us the only good snake is a dead snake.
Right. Yeah. Which I'm sure means so much to you who loves them.
Yeah. Or all the stories that were told of people who had a copperhead and had to go out and destroy it. And we're like, no, they're so important for your ecosystem. So having them on exhibit and seeing them and that they're not scary, they're not rattling, they're not trying to hurt you is fantastic. I just love venom. I think they're such cool animals. We have mambas, cobras, we have king cobras, gaboon vipers happen to be some of my favorite because they're just gorgeous.
They're such cool snakes.
Yeah, they're the only snake that still makes me jump when I feed them.
Really?
Yeah, they go from standstill to eating that item in the blink of an eye.
Oh, wow.
They strike so fast. And the one we have on exhibit, I mean, you feel the force through the tongs. And I jump every time. And I've been doing this for over 7 years. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, they still make me jump.
That's awesome. Very cool.
But yeah, same thing with our venom. We have a lot on exhibit, off exhibit. We travel it. So the reptiles traveling exhibit has venomous snakes that go on it. So we have certified staff. We do all of our certifications in-house. Tons of safety, security, running drills, having anti-venom. It's a huge part of what we do. And I know not a lot of zoos seem to have the exotic venomous snakes. You'll always see rattlesnakes, but mambas and cobras are kind of unique and different. And especially for middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, you walk in and see a king cobra on exhibit. And yeah, we have one.
Yeah, it is very cool. Y'all, did you hear how she yet again was like certified? She's like, don't even ask me about my damn snakes. You're not getting to play with a cobra today.
No.
I knew that already. We were
Yeah,
awesome. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
The poop story. So we run our evening flashlight safari events, and we have a kinkajou. So we do have one mammal who lives here off exhibit, and he is the star of that show. So I had the last show of the night, and Mr. Rodney decided that right in the middle of us talking about him, he was going to take a giant poop down my back in front of a full audience of people. So that was everybody's favorite part of the show. And that was pretty much it. Like, I couldn't get the crowd back. They laughed. They loved it. Rodney was the star. He got half a banana, proceeded to throw it on the ground. And then that was, yeah. The show was great. People loved it. It just, of course, he had to poop right on me at like 9:00 at night.
I always say the two most impressive things about animals is when they like do what you ask them to do and when they don't do what you ask them to do. Both times it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very cool. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. All right, so there you have it, folks. And next week we'll be back at the same facility, but talking about something completely different, which is their traveling exhibits, which is just a really, really cool thing. I wanted to take a moment again to just thank everyone at Reptiland for being so welcoming and awesome. And also to thank my Red Panda level patrons, Kristen Dickey and Laura Shank. Thank you both for being Red Panda level patrons. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of my patrons. You can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari, and you will get bonus audio content from some of the episodes of this podcast, including this very episode. So that's very exciting. And also don't forget, other ways you can support the pod without, the finances is by hitting subscribe, by making sure you download every episode, by making sure that you follow along at Rossifari on socials and at Rossifari Pod on TikTok and all of those good things. And if nothing else, then you can really, really make sure that you keep it in your heart and that you really remember that the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.